Hey, how you guys doing? I'm William Myers from Mantis Outdoors.
Chris from Preparedness 101.
And right now we're going to do a video addressing just hunters. You know, we're not talking to preppers, we're not talking to survivalists or bushcrafters or stuff like that. You know, we're talking to you hunters out there that are, you know, maybe you've been in the woods a lot, but you don't know a lot about the woods. You're an avid hunter, you know, you go out there and you stalk, you know, your deer, you know where you're going to go, your tree stand hunting, stuff like that, blind hunting, what have you. You know, we're talking about emergency preparations for you hunters out there, so don't go away. All right, so a lot of hunters that I know of, you know, they have very little in the regards as emergency gear in their pack. I mean, they might pack some water, maybe a Coca-Cola or something, Mountain Dew, and a little snack or something like that, and then they hit the woods with their tree stand on their back. You know, and I always ask them, what would happen if you fell out of that tree stand and you broke a rib or you snapped your ankle or something like that? What are you going to do? You know, what preparations do you have? Did you even tell your wife you were leaving and where you were going? Some people that I know don't do that. You know, I don't want her to know where I'm at. You know, one of those things. When you are planning a hunt, the first preparation is before you leave the house. You know, your neighbor Mike next door, hey Mike, I'm going to such and such woods and I'm planning to be back about 5-6 o'clock. If I'm not back, something's wrong. Or your wife or whatever. You know, having a solid plan of, okay, he is here and this is a roundabout where he's hunting is fundamental. You know, that's just the beginnings of preparations in the woods. You got anything to add to that?
Well, I know a few people that hunt, and this is one of those, if the shoe fits, wear it. If the shoe fits, wear it. You know, because we know there's a lot of people that hunt that also like to go out and do stuff in the woods, but I do know some people that their only real experience in the woods is during deer season. During deer season, they go out to the woods. Maybe they know somebody, or they get a place that they can go to. They take their tree stand. They go out in the morning. They go up the tree, and then they come back, and that's it. They're not out bushcrafting. They're not into all the survival stuff. And sometimes I wonder, and I ask them, is like, what if something happens? And what I'm thinking of, if it was me, and I was doing it, because I'm not a big hunter. You know, every once in a while I do stuff, but when I'm out in the woods, I'm doing other things. I'm thinking, okay, what suggestions would I give to somebody? And the first thing, like Will said, is who knows where you're going, and not just I'm going to, you know, my cousin Bob's woods. You know, I'll see you tonight. Does your wife or your girlfriend know where Bob's woods is? Do you have a plan in place, like to let her know, if I'm not home by this time, or if I don't call by this time, there might be a problem and you might need to alert somebody, as with anything. Yeah.
You know, and you could go crazy with it, you know, and have big topographical maps, and I'm at here and this is where my tree stand is. But I mean, a simple just written map, you know, I'm on the trailhead, this is how far up the trailhead I am, and then I'm taking this little path here. Just a simple little tiny map is for search and rescue is gold, you know, stuff like that. And you know, and a lot of what happens when people are hunting is, just case in general, this was about 10-15 years ago. A really good friend of mine was hunting in Wayne National Forest in Ohio, and that is thousands of acres, so square acres. I mean, it's a really big allotment of land, and it's public. And he was out there hunting, and he got a 12-point buck, and it was like one of his really first big bucks. You know, he got that buck fever, heart's pounding real hard, took the shot, and the buck, he's seen a solid hit, and the buck took off. Well, he was so excited, he got down and started going after it right then and there. And you know, the buck had a solid hit on it, but he's chasing that deer. Every time the deer sits down to finally just bleed out and die, it notices him, hears him, scares, jumps, goes even further. That's why, you know, everybody always tells you to just sit, chill for about an hour, just kind of notice where the buck went, stuff like that. But he chased that deer for over 1.5 miles. And by the time he actually got the deer and found the deer, he was like, oh wait, where am I? So he was lost out in Wayne National Forest with pretty much nothing, and he's had to spend the night, wasn't really that big of an ordeal, but we're going to go into that a little bit more into this talk.
You know, one of the things when you're talking about this, you know, a lot can be done just through prevention, having those things ahead of time. So you go out to your hunting location, you scout it out, you know your surroundings, but not only that is, you know, I have like apps on my phone with like signal strength meters. It kind of tells me what kind of signal I'm getting from my network in that area. And I've also got an app that does a network signal refresher. So say Sprint doesn't have a very good signal, or you're not getting a very good signal in that area, you hit that, it researches all the towers, locks into the strongest one so you have better signal. So I would go out there and I would just be like, okay, I'm checking. I got pretty good cell service in this area, so I know if I have some sort of emergency, I'll be able to make a call. And then the other thing that I would do, if you want to be really safe, is have some sort of GPS app on your phone. When you get to your location where you're going to have your tree stand or whatever, turn on your GPS app. It's like, okay, here's my latitude and longitude. You know, if you have, like, I don't know how iPhones work, but on Samsung, you just swipe the screen, takes a screenshot.
We drop pins.
Yeah, screenshot, and there's your screenshot, and then I could text that picture to my wife, girlfriend, you know, whoever you got. Then somebody knows exactly where you are or where you're supposed to be. So if you have some sort of accident, and I mean, it can, I was watching a video on YouTube the other day, I don't know who it was, but he was spear hunting in Africa, and he did something out of, I don't know if he jumped out of the tree or something, but he ended up shanking his leg in an artery with his spear, and his phone was up in the tree. And he's just sitting there trying to control the bleeding. In Africa, the blood smell in the air, and there's lions
Usually
and
not
stuff.
a good idea. Yeah, that's bad.
So it's like, he's like, well, nobody's expecting me. He got out of there, but that's just, it goes to show that, you know, stuff can happen. And if you didn't tell anybody where you're going to be or when you're going to be back, or make some sort of plans for that, because this should be a problem that doesn't happen. When we're talking, most people talk about survival, you're out hiking, you don't know where you're at, something happens, but with hunting, it should be very preventable, because you know where you're going to go, you can make a plan, but, you know, what about stuff that people should actually have with them?
Well, you know, one of the most common things, if you ask any Department of Natural Resources guy or anything like that, as far as hunting accidents go, you know, it's not like shooting yourself or shooting your nephew accidentally in the woods because you thought he was a deer. 90% of the accidents that happen out in the woods are from tree stands, you know, falling out of tree stands, breaking ribs, snapping ankles, stuff like that. And, you know, for that, you're going to have some basic wilderness medical knowledge, know how to treat those wounds and things like that. But, you know, a lot of what hunters do, I mean, and we're talking about people that just don't have any woods experience, they just avid hunters. You know, they'll be in Walmart or something like that, and they'll pass this aisle with this nice little square package that says BG on the front of it. And, you know, it's a survival kit. You know, hey, well, I'll just grab that, throw that in my bag, and when everything happens, I'll just be cool. I'll just grab that bag out, and it'll have everything I need in it, even though I've never even looked in that. You know, and that's just, obviously, it's just, you can tell the sarcasm, because it's just not going to work. You know, first of all, you know, those kits, they're a joke. Really are all survival kits, in my opinion. Unless you built it, it's a joke. You cannot go to the store and pick up a little square bag and expect all of your needs to be met from that little square bag. There's just no way. You know, so what I would say would be, you know, obviously Dave Canterbury kind of made it a household name, the 10 C's. You know, the 10 C's of survivability, or the 10-piece kit. You know, a lot of people, you know, even far beyond, you know, Dave Canterbury and us, you know, people have been packing 10-piece kits, you know, the 10 essentials for life. And that's what you should be packing if you're, you know, going out in the outdoors where something possibly could happen. I mean, you're carrying bows, you know, shotguns, things like that. You're climbing up trees. Things can happen. You know, when you're in that situation, Murphy's Law definitely applies. So you should be carrying, you know, in my opinion, a stainless steel bottle. Does it have to be, you know, a gallon or, you know, 64 ounces? No, you know, something that you can boil water in. Or if not, then you need to be carrying some kind of a filter. You know, that's water. a grabber heat sheet tarp is probably the best thing that's going to knock shelter out, and you know, it can compact really far, really tight. Those space blankets that you see again at like Walmart and such, you know, those things really, I mean, they're going to reflect the heat pretty good, and we can use them in certain situations as a tool, but I would prefer to see somebody with a grabber heat sheet tarp, you know, because one, it's sturdier. You don't need a college degree in folding to get it back in your pack. It has rivets on the sides, you know, grommet holes, so you can do certain options with sheltering and things like that. You know, a good knife either on your body or in that pack, you know, things like that. You know, you want to go ahead and keep going.
Well,
with
like I said in the video I did the other day about prepping for autumn, which autumn is, you know, where most of the hunting season is. If you're out hunting and things do not go as planned, chances are, being the time of year that it is, it's going to get really cold at night. So if you're out there and you didn't plan on being out there, you know, what are the limits of what you're actually wearing? So the first thing would be, if you're stuck out there, is to get warm. So having Surefire, a good Surefire starting method, a good ferro rod, and a grabber heat sheet blanket to make yourself a little shelter to reflect that heat back on you, that's going to get you through the night pretty good. It's really just controlling your core body temperature. You're not going to be comfortable, but you know, what about survival is comfortable? It's just staying alive.
Yeah, we're at this point, we're not really talking about smoothing it out here, bushcrafting, and you know, making things, and we're just talking about getting by. You know, having shelter and having water and having, you know, having a few calories here and there packed away is awesome. You know, if you're actually in a situation where you're having a prolonged SNS reaction, sympathetic nervous system reaction, you know, having some calories and proteins and things like that is a morale booster. Just, but you know, people talk about, well, you don't need it. It's just maybe a 24-hour, 48-hour, 72-hour situation. Try it sometimes, you know.
And then the last thing that I can think of, which is a big deal to me, is I know that people don't take medical stuff that seriously, because I mean, I could do a knife review on a popular knife and immediately get 10,000 views, but a couple weeks ago I did 2 medical videos with a highly trained person, which he showed exactly how to use a cat tourniquet, how to use a soft T tourniquet. He showed how to use an Israeli bandage and a better trauma bandage that he has. And especially if you're out there in gun season, and you see it every year. Somebody gets trigger happy, somebody gets shot. Do you know how to stop bleeding out there? It's not just, okay, I got shot, well, better get to the hospital. You may not get out of the woods. So you're out there hunting. Do you have ways to stop traumatic bleeding? Do you know how? Not just, okay, I got a tourniquet and I got and improvised tourniquets, you know, are only about 15 to 20% effective, and that's if you know how to do it right. So do you have a cat? Do you have a soft T? Do you have an Israeli bandage? Some way to stop blood if you take an accidental arrow or get shot? I mean, bow season, I mean, some of the tips they got now, you get hit with one of those toxic broadheads or something like that, you're going to be bleeding.
Definitely.
So do you have that? Do you have a way to stop the bleeding? Is that part of your kit? If it isn't, why isn't it?
Well, you know, and that leads up to, you know, what I'm kind of talking about is, you know, those survival kits at Walmart and stuff like that. People just throw those, and people will buy just a medical kit and throw that in their bag, and I'm good. I'm all right, you know. But people don't ever pull those out and use them. People don't ever even, you know, research them. You know, I had a guy that had a survival kit in his bag, and we were playing around with it at a deer camp of mine one year, and I was just showing him all the little stuff. He was like, "Oh, that's cool, man. I never even knew that was in there." What? This is your kit. You know, you didn't know this was in here. You didn't know it could do that. So yes, pack the right stuff, and most of the stuff that we're talking about can pack inside of a stainless steel bottle, and that's just your kit right there, a little bottle kit. Chris has done videos about those before, you know, and they could just be thrown into a bag and pretty much forgotten about. But what we're trying to say is, you know, the medical stuff and the survival stuff that we're talking about, you can't just throw that into a bag and that's it. You have to have the knowledge to back it up. Get that stuff out, play with it, you know. I mean, it seems kind of weird saying play with your toys is what I'm trying to say. You know, work the ferro rods, you know, experiment with stuff, you know, try the whistles out, see how they sound, you know, just make a mock shelter in the backyard one day, you know, get the stuff out and get familiar with it, because once you need it, it's a pretty bad time to start learning at that point.
It comes down to this. You're entering a time of year and a situation in when the risk level is at its highest. You're in the woods, you're climbing trees. There are other people out there, we're about to run out of battery.
Hurry it up.
There are other people out there with guns and arrows and stuff like that. You could get hurt really bad. So make a plan before you leave, let people know where you are, and to call the authorities if you don't get back in time, be able to start a fire, build a shelter, have good communication, and stop bleeding. That's it in a nutshell.
Being able to control your core body temperature would be number one, the absolute number one. So, you know, the rules of 3 kind of apply here. 3 hours of exposure, 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food. In my opinion, those are pretty broad-based. They're generalizations. It can be plus or minus in anything. But, you know, that would be the one thing that I would concentrate on the most, is making sure you know how to control your core body temperature in the event of an emergency.
All right, we're about to run out of camera battery here, so we're going to wrap it up. So if you're one of those guys and you hadn't thought about that, start thinking about it. All right, I'm Chris from Prepare Mind 101.
William Myers from Mantis Outdoors.
See you next time.